What's up, guys? Four Corners back with another podcast episode. It is your host, Ray. I can be found on the internets at Rayvon Hackshaw on Twitter, on X, on. I'm on Blue Sky. I don't Blue Sky often, but I am on Blue Sky. I wish it was more popular because I'm not feeling Elon these days. He's been doing a lot, and maybe too much. I would say he is in fact doing too much. But yeah, welcome to the show. I am no Peter today, but he will have his own segment promptly. I'm here with Chill Ducey, Twitter extraordinaire. How you doing?
Oh, thank you for the Twitter extraordinaire. I'm doing great. I feel like I have some Nuggets things to get off of my chest, and I'm looking forward to hanging out with you guys. And Ray, thank you for having me on, dude.
It's been a minute. I feel like there is actually a lot we could we haven't had the chance to discuss. But last but not least, for sure, is Rashad of the Drop Step and the I Post podcast. What's going on?
Hello. It has been how long since I've been on an episode with you? It's been at least like 3 months.
Yeah,
probably more.
It's been a while. I want to say like 6 months or something.
I'm doing good. It's regular weekend. Had some fun last night. I'm just going through my weeks, man. It's been a really busy like month and a half for me. It's just been nonstop. So I'm glad I actually get to take today and calm down and do nothing and just relax and assess and talk about the Nuggets and get stressed out about that now. So there we go.
I know you moved to Denver. I want to say it's been like almost a year.
Almost 3 years, actually.
Almost 3 years.
Yeah, that's 2.5.
You're right. I have been here also for like 5, I guess. Okay. So how are you now that you've been here for like a while? How are you feeling about the city?
I'm working my way around some of the things I've started disliking more. At the traffic, because now with my new job, I have to commute down to Centennial every morning at like 8:30. And I take I-25 south every single day, and it's just the worst experience of my life every day. So that's been interesting, but for the most part, I'm enjoying my time here. I can see myself being here for a really long time, and I'm starting to like flesh out all the things that I really like to do around the city and finding all the spots that I want to make my regular spots. So that's been fun, just exploring all the different things that I could get myself into out here. It's been fun.
Nice. Yes. Well, I will say I-25 is a bad idea.
It's the worst. The worst idea.
I'm just saying this. I know this is a basketball podcast. I gotta go into my urban planning bag. All right. So Rashad, you've been to DC, right? You know how DC built a highway that goes around the city?
Yes.
Effectively, in both directions. It's called a beltway, right? It's like a circle around the city, and so that when you want to get from one side of the city to the other, you don't have to go through the heart of downtown. And I-25 decided that they didn't care about that, and that let's just go through the middle and let's have an exit every like quarter mile for like 8 miles, and that's never going to get clogged up. And the reality is that it gets clogged up every day for the slightest drop of a hat. I-25 is clogged, and I hate it. It was a terrible idea. And yeah, that's all I got to say on the subject. I just destroy I-25 and build a beltway. That's my take.
That's right, dude. I just finished a highway infrastructure book. I don't know if it needed to be a whole book, perhaps, to get takeaways that I had, but I'm like, just take the highways down.
Just
take them down.
You need them somewhere. You want to? I don't know if you know, like. I live near Wadsworth. Wadsworth could be a highway. I kind of get it. It kind of goes around. Like, I'm not saying you can't have highways. Just don't
circle the city.
People are like, I don't understand why downtown isn't as popular as it is. Is because you drove a highway through it.
Yeah.
It's at least part of it. It's at least part of it. Anyway, so Let's get into some Nuggets talk. I guess top of the we'll talk about the most relevant, most recent things. I think first, we have a GM. Look, guys, we have a GM. I think, kind of, sort of, in a way,
unquote, a GM,
a collective brain trust that equates to a general manager and front office sort of thing. Do you guys want to go first as far as like any firm thoughts about Tenzer and Johnson? Okay, Rashad.
Because I've been talking about this as part of my notes for my podcast episode I'm going to be doing. It definitely is. I don't want to call it an overcorrection, but it's definitely a correction from the past relationship that Booth and Malone had. And like, obviously, for the people that don't know, part of the reason why they were both fired was because they couldn't see eye to eye on pretty much anything when it comes to player personnel and player rotations and stuff like that, and how these guys were being used. And then it started affecting the team as a whole. So now they're both out, but I think preemptively, I'm okay with them going with this new revamped version because it does, like, this is the point is to collab. The point is to like work together on these things and getting two people instead of just having one GM look over everything and then wait for approval or whatever. I think this could be a good idea. We haven't seen anything yet. There really hasn't been an opportunity for them to make like move or anything besides some of the two-way contracts that they've been giving out and not bringing people back on. But I think it could be good. I think it could be good.
Yeah, I'm with you. Oh, sorry, Ray. Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to judge any front office until I see them, make any moves. I'm not going to act like, I mean, most fans, it's going to be hard to have that level of insight. I mean, I think my first reaction with how involved Kroenke has been since the Booth and Malone firings, first reaction is a little concern about Kroenke being too involved. I think positive outlook is he understands that he can't have his hands in the pot too much. And like people covering the team have noted, they've always been involved in the big decisions. So it's not really a shift in that way. I think, I'm excited to bring someone from outside the organization in. Although Minnesota is kind of like 60% that, considering Wallace was here and we have a very incestuous connection with Minnesota at this point. But I am happy to bring someone in, hopefully with, kind of a new perspective. I think that's a positive. I think, my other takeaway so far, again, this can mean absolutely nothing, but watching some of the Tenzer clips, he was asked who's going to answer the phone, and he said it could be either of us, so his answers gave me a little bit of a, new on the job, not necessarily confident in the role yet, which is to be expected. So I did have I wasn't necessarily impressed by his press that he had. But again, that doesn't really mean anything. We need to see them work. And, from what people have said, Wallace is going to focus on the basketball, the team, the on the floor more, and Tenzer's kind of essentially, kind of more of the admin and the cap and whatnot. So I guess we'll see what that means. But I definitely, I'm definitely not coming into it with a negative mindset. That's kind of my high level takeaways off the rip.
Yeah, no, I think that's fair. I guess I'm like, can I be negative about it? I agree with a lot of what you guys are saying, just for the purposes of being a counterpoint, I guess. What I will say is the only thing I'm worried about is, a lot of what they're talking about is like, hey, when it kind of pressed on who's going to be, who's actually the decision, who's the ultimate decider on these kinds of things. It still feels ambiguous to me, like how they're going to actually work this out in practice when it really comes down to you see this with a lot of like romantic engagements, like spouses and dating partners. Like sometimes you can say to the public that like, oh, we collaborate, we work out every decision together. But I wonder like when there really is conflict, when there really are two different ideas, how that is actually going to work out. And I wonder if that's just going to end up being like, okay, if we really disagree, Josh is just going to decide. But at least they're not fighting.
And that's a plus. And that's all we can ask for
least,
at this very moment. Don't fight each other.
Don't fight each other, because as much as I might have had opinions about like Malone and Booth and their like who's right and who's wrong, but regardless of who's right or who's wrong, if y'all are fighting about it, it's not going to work out either way.
Yeah.
Like you can't execute any kind of plan faithfully, then it doesn't really matter.
Yeah, I mean, one thing I will say, I mean, obviously the delay was concerning. I think it meant less when it was confirmed it was Tenzer. Obviously, he was in house the whole time. I mean, I will say there's definitely some cope about like maybe we're bringing in Bob Myers. It's like we know the Nuggets. I feel like probably was never in the cards, but I think a lot of, I think the reality is the Nuggets are in a really strapped position asset wise, and like they have to win trades, they have to win contracts, they have to essentially get steals. And so I think it's pretty valid to be relatively concerned that essentially two new members new into their role are going to be able to get those moves done. So I do think this particular front office really leans towards the starting lineup is going to be the same next year, which will make some people happy, maybe make other people not happy. But I do think obviously if they brought in a established veteran GM, you probably would have a little more confidence in the level of vet signings they're able to bring in on a minimum, etc. I do think the Nuggets, by no fault of the current GMs, are definitely pretty strapped, and they're just gonna have to win deals, and that's kind of asking a lot. Like a lot of the frustration with probably the GMs that'll come this summer is kind of like you need to work magic, which I think is to be maybe not a fair expectation, but I also think we need to be doing everything we can to get this stuff done now. Like so, I think that is I would kind of say that as well about the two hires.
So I have a question for you two.
Sure.
Do you guys feel like this is the most important off-season / regular season / playoffs of the Jokic era in terms of like front office and bolstering the roster and making sure that the team can do something when the postseason comes around?
I think last offseason, and I think this offseason, I would say the same. I would say yes. I mean, up to this point, probably tied with last year. I would say yes.
I would say this offseason, no. I do think last offseason was important because of the Jamal Murray extension. I think that was like that's like the one of those things that like a lot of things are marginal. Like finding an 8th man, a 10th man, a 13th man that you feel good about, those things are marginal. Jamal Murray extension, I think, is going to be one of those things that like dictates the future of the Nuggets wholesale. And I probably question it a little bit right now. No disrespect to Jamal, great guy, I'm sure. It's a lot of money, and I think when you make that much money, ultimately it has implications on the rest of your roster where there's an implicitly a raised level of responsibility. And so I feel that about that. And then I would also say to that point, I feel like next offseason actually is going to be more important than this one because I'd like to see two reasons, actually.
MPJ?
Yes. The second one is that MPJ, I think, is an expiring next offseason. And so I think if you do want to trade him, that's going to be a great time to do that. Or if you wanted to extend him, I mean, I would hope it would be at a reasonable level. The ship is a little bit sailed with Jamal, but like, okay, if you want to extend him, that would be the time as well. So you're going to make that choice. Or something I also think is very important, how the Nuggets can it's a team sport, not just on the court, but also off the court, right? And for the GMs, presidents, vice presidents to make the right moves, I think giving them the best opportunity to do that. I would love to see this year for I look at David Adelman actually as having an opportunity to give the team a fresh look, right? Give them a new lease on life. Some of these guys who I think, Zeke Naji, right? I think we can all agree it's a bad contract. It seems like a bad contract right now, just based on the fact that like he's not playing, he's not relevant, he's not in the rotation. It's questionable in a lot of different ways. If you can get Zeke to a point where you like, oh, he can play defense, he's going to shoot 37% from three. I think you look at that contract a little bit differently, and you kind of have more opportunities to make moves. And I think the same is true with a lot of guys on the roster. If I can come away from this next season, or if I can feel at the deadline that like we're getting the most out of the guys that we have, I'll feel a lot better about whatever we do, whether we trade the guys or whether we keep the guys or whatever it might be. I feel like you're going to get more value when you trade them. You're going to get more out of them when you're just holding on to them and playing them. So I feel, as much as I feel like this is it would be nice if they could do something crazy that is great for the team. I saw some like LeBron chatter.
I was just about to say, yeah.
I wouldn't be mad. That I've never, who really appreciates Jokic? LeBron James. I really do feel that way. I think very few people are on that level of like cerebral understanding of the game, of professionalism as well. And I think Jokic has all the things that would make LeBron say, this is my guy.
Interesting, yeah.
That's how I feel.
It could be a last hurrah. Like, I mean, what he picked up his player option, so unrestricted free agent last year or next year. I think the window or the path for the Nuggets too, like you were saying, next offseason, a lot of those paths towards actual like betterment of the roster and restructuring of the roster is going to be there. And I've been on specifically about MPJ. I've been on the team of trying to just trade him away, see what we can do now, because I feel like our core four has hit its cap, and whether that is because of MPJ or Jamal Murray, I'm still trying to figure out wholeheartedly, but I do lean more toward MPJ and that big old number that we're going to owe him this year and next year, $40 million and $38 million, I believe, this upcoming season. So I would love for next offseason moves to be pushed up to now, today, tomorrow. Like, just make a move and show that you're willing to like do something, because we're gearing up for another really quiet offseason. And I'm, as handicapped as we are, I just wish that they were more bold in trying to attack the things that we are limited by and all this stuff. But it's a lot. It's a lot. I understand the setbacks, unfortunately.
I mean, I think it's important. I think this kind of frames most of my opinions on what they should do this offseason. And I've kind of accepted that they're probably not going to trade Porter, but I definitely would if the right deal was on the table. But like, to me, the roster right now, if they run it back, say Westbrook is on the team, or say, Bruce Brown over Westbrook, whatever, something like that, I don't think they're good enough to win a title. And to me, that's not good enough with Jokic on the team. And I think 2 years ago, the team was good enough and the coaching staff and the team didn't get it done. I think last year, the roster wasn't good enough. And I think as is, I think you can call yourself a contender, but I think they're probably at least one guy short. And that's why, to me, it's like, I think Porter will not be on the team to start game one next season. Like, that's probably lock that in. And we're going to see what happens this offseason. I mean, I think you don't trade him if you're not giving yourself some flexibility or potentially improving the team. So I'm kind of doubting that's going to happen. But to me, it's just like the team as of now is not good enough, and therefore, it's important.
Mm-hmm.
I do agree though, Ray, with your point. Like next offseason, they will have much more flexibility. That's definitely true.
Look at their salary.
Can I be honest?
Yes.
I would rather trade Jamal first.
Ooh.
And so the main reason I would say is that like I know Mike feels like actually before I get to those two, I think there's an
yes, please do.
Let me bury the lead. There's an underrated part I think about the core four that I think people don't appreciate, and why it's not as a. I have some questions about it. Is that so much of they are so complementary, right? I think they kind of all have limitations. Well, Jokic is I don't know if Jokic has limitations necessarily, but Jamal Murray, Aaron Gordon, Michael Porter, I think they all have limitations. And I think for Aaron, actually, I think it's an under discussed part of his trend is that like he's trending up offensively, but I think he's trending down defensively. And I think that's just, it's not his fault. It's just that, and I relate to this. Like I'm 30, is that like as you age, like doing like diving on the floor for loose balls and keeping up with tiny guards on the perimeter, like that kind of thing, that defensive flexibility, I think was so important to Denver. In when you have Jamal and Mike and Jokic and those guys not necessarily being plus defenders, I think Christian's done a great job of supplementing, and I think he's better than KCP. I feel like Denver is better in that spot overall. Maybe you don't have, obviously they're different players, but I think Aaron taking a step back in his defensive flexibility creates a problem for Denver where now it's like, okay, because I think that kind of puts more pressure on Mike and Jokic and Jamal to be like, okay, you actually can't be as much of a defensive liability as you guys are because now you can't just say you got SGA and say, oh, let's just put Aaron Gordon on. It doesn't necessarily work out as well as you would like. So I think that's part of it. At the same time, I'm not interested in trading Aaron Gordon because of his trade kicker right now. Jamal Murray, you could trade him right now, and I don't think you're going to lose anything. Like Mike had, as questionable as he is, he had a good year. I think he had his best point from a point per game perspective, best since I want to say 2019. Like I want to say it's that year that he was. It was just him and Jokic for a while. I think he's taken steps forward as like a 3-level scorer in a lot of ways. Had a really good year inside the arc, even if because he did all that from a points per game perspective while having kind of a down year as a 3-point shooter. I feel like you might come to next year and be like, oh, well, actually he's if not the same, he could be better. Whereas like I feel like Jamal, him being better is me banking on him coming into season in shape.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying it can't happen, but I am saying I can't put my heart on the line on that happening. And I think when you talk about what you can actually get for someone, I think you can probably get a meaningful player for. Maybe if you want, you can trade Jamal and Mike. I think talking about the LeBron thing, I think that's kind of you're looking for a real second option. You're looking for like a real upgrade there. And whether that's maybe you're doing it directly or maybe you're trading Mike for some parts that you end up packaging together with Jamal for LeBron James. I don't know. I think it would take something like that for me to feel good about moving off of, for me to feel good about breaking up because otherwise they are very good together. Like it's hard for me to say, yeah, they didn't get it done this year, but they did take OKC to 7 games. And I feel like that I can't really be mad. I don't know. Like, I wish they were better. I would love a backup center. Talking about the 3 roster spots that we have.
We keep coming back to this every year, every single year.
But we keep failing.
It never gets solved.
It never gets solved.
Ever.
But we're talking about like one more guy. They have a lot of guys on the perimeter. They have a lot of guys who are like forwards or guards. They have one center who's playable. It's Jokic.
6'9" bigs.
Or DJ, who's 40 years old almost. And I love DJ. It's just, if you could find 2 more DJs, even if they were both that old, I like DJ with like a couple nights off.
Yeah.
That you could keep them fresh. That maybe if you wanted to sit Jokic for one night, you had 2 DJs, you could play. You wouldn't be forced to go small. Yeah. I think that is the thing, is that like there are a lot of times where it feels like they just get overwhelmed physically when Jokic steps off the court, and it snowballs and it feels bad because they're not just missing they might even play great defense, but they give up an offensive rebound and give up an easy dunk, and it's just like, okay, what are we doing? You gave up an 8-point run, and that's how that stuff happens. You get demoralized. So I know it feels bad. If you could just find me someone, rebound, dunk the basketball, dunk the. You don't even need to block the shot. Just be tall. Just be that tall.
Put your hands up.
Just be that. I love the Cornet contest. I love that.
I was gonna ask you. Yeah, I've been seeing his name float around.
He would be great in Denver.
I do the Cornet contest in real life, and it works.
I gotta circle back to Jamal versus MPJ though. Okay. I mean, so here's my thing with it. Jamal obviously is overpaid. I mean, Jamal has his problems as well. My thing with the Nuggets winning a title is like, you need a ball handler, you need a scorer, you need a number 2 option. And so if you're going to trade Jamal, you need to replace him. I mean, period. Like, and
guard for guard,
it's a hard position to replace. I think most of the guys you would look at, it would be really hard to replace him, whereas Mike at his best is an elite role player, in my opinion. Like, Michael Porter Jr. is not a second option. He doesn't have the skill set. I think we've seen that. So for me, that's just what it comes down to when talking about trading those 2. Like, if you trade Jamal, you need to find a way to find a true number 2 option. And Jamal is not an all-star. He's paid like he's all NBA. So of course, I think if we're talking about them in a vacuum, you can trade him, but it's like, what you have to essentially get a borderline star ball handler if you trade Jamal. Like, you're immediately taking yourself out of title contention if you salary dump Jamal versus Michael Porter. You can salary dump him. And like, you still have a very, very strong 3 core, and you have your ball handling score. That's kind of my concise opinion on it.
That's fair. I don't think Denver. I think Jamal needs Mike more. I don't know that Jamal needs Mike, but I don't think that core works as well without Mike because of Jamal's limitations. He kind of needs the spacing, and I think it was fine offensively. For example, when Will Barton was the 3. Because he provided a lot of that like secondary creation and shooting and all those sorts of things. It just created another problem for Denver, is that they were small.
Yeah.
Is that now you have a 185-pound small forward, and as good as Aaron Gordon is, it became too easy for, I think, a lot of teams like the Lakers in the bubble to say, we're going to put 2 bigs on Jokic and we're going to dare Aaron Gordon to be a floor spacer. And we're going to live with that, and we're just going to throw a lot of otherwise resources at Jamal Murray because, like, it's just not enough of a threat to pull. And that's the challenge for me is, like, I understand where you're coming from, is that, like, it's not like Mike is going to easily step into a number 2 role. And I would almost say, like, if you're going to break up the core, I feel like you need to trade 2 of them because you're not getting another number 2 option without trading 2 of them. And whether that's, I think teams love Aaron Gordon. I love Aaron Gordon too, and I know we all love Aaron Gordon, but I also think that should be an option as well. Is that like, especially as he ages through this contract, is like I don't think he's going to be the same player at 32 that he was at 29. And if you want a number 2 option, an upgrade over Jamal Murray / Michael Porter, I think you got to trade 2 of like Porter, Gordon, and Murray. That's how I feel.
If MPJ outlasts AG on this roster, catch me. We're gonna have. It's gonna be a problem, bro. It's gonna be a problem.
We're gonna get rid of Mr. Nugget.
People will be mad. I'm not saying that. Yeah.
You're completely right about the spacing. I mean, obviously, AG and CB in the starting unit. That's the hard part about trading MPJ this offseason. It's like realistically, you have to have a 3 that is not
damn basketball. Yeah.
You also need a rebound. Like you need a
rebounder. Yeah.
Michael Porter is so overrated as a rebounder. I'm sorry.
He pulls down like 7 or 8 a game.
He's like, dude, it's like, there's, to me, a good rebounder is someone that's like good at rebounding. Michael Porter is 6'10", so he'll get rebounds.
He gets a lot of rebounds.
I don't view him as, he's not going to go and get that thing, dude.
Okay, so do you think MPJ's rebounding is a byproduct of the team just not having pretty much any rebounder outside of Jokic as a whole? Is that what it is?
I don't think so. I just think like he gets talked about in a way that he's like a plus rebounder, and I view him as like, he rebounds the basketball, but like he's not getting offensive boards like crazy, nor getting defensive boards like crazy. But again, I'm kind of notoriously, I kind of fight MPJ rhetoric a little bit, so I might not be right in that take.
Who's the dude who was on the Hawks who people were trying to trade him for?
DeAndre Hunter and Bogdan.
Yeah, DeAndre Hunter. All right, so DeAndre Hunter, right? DeAndre Hunter,
phenomenal player, by the way.
Great player. No disrespect. 4 rebounds a game. 4. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
It's
too much on Jokic.
There's a drop off, when you really talk about it. There's a reason why he's special. And it doesn't look crazy, but he does get a lot of them.
Yeah.
It's so funny. The more we go down the list of things like, the Nuggets struggle with this, and this, the list just keeps getting longer of so many things that they need. And it's just like, on top of being handicapped, how on earth are you going to solve all of these problems and get back to a point of contention that you feel comfortable with? It's just, It's so hard because we could trade Jamal, we could trade MPJ, but how much of the other things are we also going to be able to like plug up in those trades? Because like y'all were saying, that takes a special player. Like Rayvon, you're saying you want a true 2 option, someone that doesn't need to lean on Jokic so much to get their own production. If we get a player like that while using Jamal and MPJ, where do we get everything else from? And it's just it sucks that we're in this position right now because we have Jokic. It's like, we should be competing every single year. Like we shouldn't have really that many problems on the roster. And then it's just like
we
every
did
year
take the champion to 7 games. Like I do think
that's our moral victory for the year.
I'm not saying. I mean, I've been a sports fan for a long time, but Nuggets and also my Ravens, and like you're gonna win championships sometimes, but also I can't be that mad. I'm not that mad.
They played way better. My expectations were way lower coming into the playoffs than how they performed.
That is also true. That is very true.
It's not like they got booted in the first round and like an embarrassed. I'm not embarrassed. I'm not embarrassed by how they finished the season. But so much of how the starters function, and it's like it was their strength when they won a title, is that like they're so complementary. Like all of their flaws fit into each other's strengths, and that's the tough part. Is like you can't take out one part of that equation and have it all still feel balanced. You got to find a whole new equation, more or less.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be mad if they traded all 3 of them.
Just a total sweep.
Yeah.
change the whole roster.
Because of that dynamic, yeah. I if you're really trying to go for, I don't want to trade for like.
Darius Garland.
I'm trying to think. Darius Garland. I mean,
Darius Garland would be good on this team. If we do end up having to trade Jamal, I think Darius Garland should be the one that we go for.
Oh, I love his game.
I love it so much.
As a passer, God, that's just
some quickness, some speed on the perimeter again. Someone who can make those fast decisions and really like punish the defense, especially on those pick and rolls, getting into that middle space. Like I think he would fit really well if it comes down to that.
And like if you didn't want to reimagine the whole formula, a 1-to-1 trade does make some sense.
Yeah.
Like I don't think it makes, if you did like Mike for like Zach LaVine, maybe you can say Zach LaVine's a better player, but also now you have Jamal Christian and Zach LaVine is like your 1, 2, 3, and like I don't think that makes any sense.
Yeah, CB
together.
At the 3 is just not. Yeah. That's not what I want.
It's not an advantage. Like CB at the 2 is like he's big, he's powerful, he's 220 pounds. CB at the 3 is kind of like that's fine.
Yeah. I mean, right. I mean, you make a great point. I mean, end of the day, Murray, Gordon, and CB, and Porter. I mean, the frustrating thing about where the Nuggets are at in the cap sheet is like those 3 guys are really specifically fit into this team and Jokic, where it's like Aaron Gordon on a lot of teams in the NBA, I don't think he's making the same impact with the spacing that he has next to Mike, next to Jokic, next to Jamal. Obviously his offense this year was crazy, but like prior, it's kind of like, okay, he's the 4 that doesn't space, that's elite in the dunker spot. Mm-hmm. That's not a plug and play to every team in the NBA. Jamal obviously very reliant on 2-man. CB is about to get rewarded where, I mean, dog, but he was 30% from 3 not being guarded in the playoffs, which being a little overlooked. And all the time about CB, I'm not going to lie. Yeah. So I think, unfortunately for him, the Nuggets need to play a little bit of hardball with him because I think there's a big difference between CB on an appropriate market rate or maybe a little over that versus, this is CB on, a really nice extension. Yeah. So I think you're completely right about how this 5 fits together, and they've all been rewarded. And so now they're probably all a little overpaid relative to their worth, plug and play across the league. But for the record, I do think this starting lineup, healthy, is good enough to win the title. It is kind of 6 through 10, specifically 6, where I think there's a difference from the title team, and the league is getting better. So that's kind of where I'm at this offseason, but it's tough.
Before I go into it, how do you guys feel about getting into like the deeper parts of the roster? You know who didn't shoot 30% from 3 in the playoffs? Peyton Watson. I know everyone's like he's bad. He shot 37% from 3. I'm just saying. He shot 37% from 3. I think obviously Julian kind of won them that game 6. How low or high are you on those guys as another year in the Bucks? Their frontal lobes are slowly coming into form. Do you think they can be better next year?
I think I want Peyton Watson to work out so bad. Like I want him to develop into this complete player who is incredible defender, all defensive type of defender, while being able to hit that corner 3 at a consistent rate. Like I don't want him to do a lot offensively because I just don't. That's not where he's going to be in the league if he stays with the Nuggets. If he goes anywhere else, that's just not going to be his role. I will say though, I want him to get smarter offensively because I feel like a lot of the times, whether it is just driving into a clogged lane and throwing up a shot or not making a swing pass or just all these little lapses, young player, whatever, it's going to happen. Some of those things, the mental aspects, I would love to see get better. I'm just not sure skill-wise if he's going to develop into much more than what he is right now. And it's just, I'm trying to think if that's a Nuggets problem, if they're not, using him in a different way, or if that's just him not putting in the work that needs to be put in, or not knowing what type of work that needs to be put in order to get better. But I really want him to work out because I think he's a really good asset on this team. On paper, and what his prime would look like, he would be an amazing fit on the bench. But I just don't know if he's going to get, or he's going to max out his potential.
Yeah, I think where I'm at with Peyton is, I think counting on him to be a top 7 guy next spring, I just don't see that. I just think that's asking too much. And from what I've seen, is just extremely unlikely to happen. I mean, the talk this past season was like, yeah, Peyton's not there right now, but where will he be in April? And, I think that really, again, it's not fair to him because I think he's talented. I think he's a good dude. And I like a lot of things about his game, but the reality in the playoffs when you're playing 10 to 15 minutes and your team's trying to win a title is you defend, you make smart plays, you don't turn the ball over, you hit shots. And I think he doesn't fit into that role right now, not necessarily by any fault of his own. But he definitely wasn't there this past season. And so for me, I would love to see us bring in that wing like Justin Holiday. I mean, obviously that's the context of a lot of Malone versus Booth right there. And so it'll be interesting to see what happens with the new front office. But for me, Peyton, I think he's like a really splash defender, but I don't know if he's shown that he's a guy that you can put out there and clamp somebody up yet. I think he could be that guy. And then the thing with him on offense, I think he's got a lot of talent. Obviously his finishing is kind of an issue, especially in this offense. When you get those looks, we need you to finish at the rim. He is a big shot maker. I mean, I think he has something. He has a spark to his game. I think he kind of has shown he's kind of ready for the moment sometimes. But yeah, I don't trust his shot as far as the form. So yeah, my take with Peyton is you don't need to get rid of him. He's probably not as bad as people are saying, but I also think it's unfair and unrealistic to expect him to be your 7th man next spring, which again, if we're talking about we're trying to win a title, I wouldn't be happy with that decision. That doesn't mean he can't play, and that doesn't mean he can't earn that spot. It's not like you're going to bring in I'm assuming you're not going to bring in a guy that you can't bench for him, but yeah. I would not be happy if he was a penciled in top 7, 8 guy.
I would not mind if they had Justin Holiday. There's no way in hell you should be playing Justin Holiday over Peyton Watson. That doesn't make any fucking sense. That man is 36 years old. I'm saying
Justin Holiday.
We can't all be Tom Brady where we just play until we're 40 and it's just okay, and it all works out. It doesn't work out. Yeah. I will say defensively, there's a real, I think, athleticism deficit on the team where Peyton Watson and his ability to cover, he's done a great job. He did a great job, I think, on KD this season when they played them. I think he did a great job on Kyrie Irving when they played them. I think he's the kind of guy you could. Christian Brown is a smarter defender than him. I'll give him that credit. It doesn't always matter. When Christian Brown is closing out on guys, just because of the nature of the fact that I don't want to say he's a negative wingspan, so but at the same time, there is a certain amount of length that is scary for people, and Peyton Watson has it, and I would love to see him in that junkyard dog role, and I don't know. I don't want him. And I'm not saying he needs to start, but I would love to see him spend some time, talking about getting him up to speed. I think it's a lot easier to learn the game when you have a very straightforward, simple, narrow role. And I think that is a big part of why Christian Brown had the year that he did, is that okay, coming in as the 5th starter, you don't need to do a lot of decision making. You don't need to do a lot of complex thinking. You don't need to do a lot of creation for others. You need to be okay, go finish this play. Go play defense. That's it. Run the court. You're gonna get 15 points a game. It's not that complicated, and I would love to see that from him next season. And I wouldn't mind seeing more veterans on the team. It's the responsible usage that I think is the thing for me. Is like I want to see the vets play less in the regular season, especially if they're 39 years old. I'm inflating it, but if they're in their mid to late 30s, I think the ideal role for them is to be a guy who like break glass in case of emergency, and I'll come in and be fine. But at the same time, don't ask me to play every night. I can't play every day, you know. And I think I'm obviously they're better conditioned athletes than I am, but like I still think there's something there to like even DJ I think had good games when he was fresh. When he hadn't played in a while, you would play and be like, "Oh, look, DJ, he's getting up there. He's moving his feet, he's running the floor." And then 30 minutes later, actually, he looks like he's walking through mud. And 2 nights later, when you call him back to say, "Oh, you had a good game on Tuesday. Let's see how you do on Thursday," it's like, "Oh, actually,
what the hell happened?"
Well, he's getting older, and it's
Get
so
them all on DJ's diet, man. Get them all in the lab with DJ, man.
They are in great shape. Like I hope to be on a similar type of time as I age. It's just so part of it is also I think on David Adelman is that whoever they bring in veteran wise, obviously they've got these 3 roster spots, and maybe we can talk a little bit more about that next.
Yes.
I think whoever they bring in, I want them to be responsibly utilized on the team with an eye for what the playoffs is going to mean for the team, but also the value of the regular season and what that can have for the younger guys as well, and kind of split that difference.
I think every NBA player in the league, if they got a bunch of minutes next to Nikola Jokic, they would have generational wealth. You know what I mean? So I think, for me, like, it's not so much the staggering as like, I think probably a criticism of Malone for sure, where it's like, I mean, look, if Peyton's in the rotation, he's playing on the bench. Like, he's going to get his minutes with the starters, but like, you're a bench player. Like, you're going to be playing with the bench. And to be fair, where's the structure of they got to figure out a way to have a more structured second unit. You know what I mean? Because it's like you take anyone on the roster and you let them play with Jokic and Murray, and they're going to be fine, if not good. But like you're a bench player, you're playing on the bench. They got to develop there too. I mean, so I will probably get into what's going to happen with the bench, but that's just a real, if these guys are developing, it's going to be with that unit for the most part. So they got to figure that out.
Yeah, no, I think that's fair. I don't know how I'd put it.
I will say I love Jalen Pickett. I'm not going to lie. I don't know how many of us are out there, but like I'm fine.
There's at least 5 of us.
I'm fine with I'm fine with I mean, another ball, like say Russ is gone. Another ball handler brought in, call it Bruce Brown, or like, I love Schroeder. I've always loved Schroeder for the Nuggets. I'm fine with Pickett not being your 6th man, but like I love his
9.
Yeah, like he can run backup point guard in the regular season for me.
And like here's an interesting thing that I feel like Russ, as good as Russ was, I think the fit between him and Pickett was just like oil and water, just because of the nature of, I think the Pickett can do the most for you with the ball in his hands. He's fine off ball. Like he's not going to be a world beater, but I think his shot is fine. Yeah, he can shoot. It's just if you're putting the ball, for every possession you're putting the ball in Pickett's hands, that also means you're taking the ball out of Russ's hands. Yeah. And Russ, I think, really struggles. You almost have to put him in the dunker spot, which also means that you can't play like a more traditional forward in the dunker spot. And so it has this like knock-on effect in terms of the effectiveness of the team. So I'm really optimistic that Bruce Brown comes back, because I think Pickett and Bruce can usually shoot the ball at a reasonable clip, and he can play like the 2.
Playoffs,
yeah. The defensive flexibility I think is going to be there. And I think it'll give you the opportunity to say like, oh, we can play you can play a more traditional forward set as well, and have like maybe you can have like a mini 2-man game. Maybe it's like Bruce and Pickett. Sorry, not Bruce and Pickett. Maybe it's Bruce and Deron Holmes, or it's Pickett and Deron Holmes, or it's some other big. I hope they bring in another big. That's my main thing. I think
Larry Nance.
I would love 2 guys. Like bring if you could Larry Nance, I like a lot. However, because he is
he's getting up there.
No, not Larry Nance Sr., but I know he's getting up there. Because his knees aren't the most solid, I would say it'd be nice to have somebody like another option there. Maybe even someone who's a little bit more traditional at the position. And okay, he's 32, which is not crazy, but maybe not a guy you want to play. He played 24 games last season. So maybe you want someone who plays, neither of them are going to play every night, but maybe you want someone else who can give you that other 40 games, whatever it might be.
Then we circle back to Luke Cornett.
Sure. if you told me that like Bruce Brown, Larry Nance Jr., and Cornett, I would feel really good, honestly, about Denver's ability to, because it's not just that those guys. You're also going to hopefully give, maybe Aaron Gordon needs a night off. Maybe Mike plays a lot.
Yeah.
Like Mike has played like 70 plus games, I want to say, in the last 2 seasons. And I think that, you're talking about keeping guys healthy going into the playoffs. It would be really nice if Denver had more front court support on a random Tuesday night where you didn't feel like you needed some of these other guys and kind of give some, I think the biggest parts of structure talking about that is who's running the point guard and who's running the center positions. Because I think those are your defensive rebounding in terms of centers and kind of offensive and playmaking linchpins when you talk about that like stability. And going back to where we had that, I think Monte Morris and Mason Plumlee, it feels like the last time Denver had a bench with an identity that was consistent and regular, and you could trust that they're going to be able to consistently produce offense and good look. Maybe, the shooters shoot well, maybe the shooters shoot poorly, but it's way different to have just like, oh, he missed shots versus, oh, we don't know how to generate good looks.
Yeah.
And I think that's my biggest like need from the other guys is like, can y'all just even if you miss them, if you miss a good shot, I don't care.
Yeah.
I really don't.
Yeah. I think Luke Cornett, the thing is with DJ, who I think was overall fantastic in his role last year, but you're like, especially with Russ, the spacing on that unit is like, it's pick and roll or nothing. I mean, you bring in Cornett, who's a shooter, you have more spacing for the other guys on that unit a little bit. Peyton has a little more area to do his thing.
And see, I'm glad you brought up Peyton's aim, because it's part of the reason why, and we've talked about this a couple times already during this recording, but yeah, it's like he's limited in himself, but also the unit that he runs with just does not maximize his offensive ability or what he could do on a night-to-night basis offensively. I wanted to the last point guard / center duo that we had. I was thinking also along the lines of Bones and DeMarcus Cousins.
Sure.
Because I feel like those two, I really, really, really loved what Boogie brought to this team. As a player, as a whole, his entire career, I've been a fan of his, but especially on the Nuggets and how he was able to, like, to a lesser degree, because he is such a good passer, we're able to run some sort of similar offense with him on the floor when Jokic was sitting, and then Bones was that dynamic scoring, sometimes playmaking point guard that opened up the offense in a way. And I really loved that dynamic that we had. Sucks that we just have not gotten that version of it. Point guard who can shoot the 3-ball, who's confident in that 3-ball as well. That's the biggest part. Talk about not willing to take shots with the second unit, not generating good looks. Like, that was a good, I think, benchmark to look back on when we're moving toward the future and moving ahead with this team and figuring out what this bench should look like, you know?
Yeah. I was going to say, I mean, 100%. I mean, you said this earlier when you were talking about Garland. I mean, one thing I would say about Pickett is like, I love it. I love his shooting. I love his game, but like he is slow. I mean, he is like not an athlete. Obviously, we've seen him struggle to bring the ball up a little bit, like another point guard on the roster. But yeah, a little dynamicism, and a little more diversity on the bench for sure.
Something I think the Nuggets have struggled with is that like those kinds of players who are dynamic, they usually have an ego. You know, and I think Denver has struggled with giving guys like that an outlet for like satisfying their ego. And I don't want to like put it that like flatly, but it does kind of feel that way. Is like kind of talking about Trey Alexander not a Nugget anymore. I kind of get it because maybe you won Rookie of the Year in the G League, but there's no real like path for you to really contribute to the team in like a meaningful way if you're behind Pickett and we're trying to bring in another guy who's in front of Pickett just to be safe, like what is really there for you here? And I think with Bones it was a similar thing of like, okay, well, you can do these things, but I think Denver really struggled to like harness his energy in a healthy way. And it's easy to lose guys like that, guys like Boogie. I mean, Boogie is Malone's guy, and I think that helped a lot with managing his desire to kind of be relevant and important. And there was also a lot of opportunity because of the Jamal Murray and Michael Porter absences. So without those, how do you get some guys who are going to come in, be talented, have that spark, have that juice, but also keep them like humble enough or keep them satisfied with the role that they have in potentially the role that they might have in the future, whether that's in Denver or not. I think that's another thing that Denver could start to think about is like Christian Braun, you know, he's done well for himself, right? He is due for an extension, and I think there's a lot of open-ended questioning about like what the dollar amount on that is going to be. I'm not saying I want to trade him, but if the alternative is $30 million a year, I think that means somebody wants you. You know, I think on the trade market, I think that means somebody is willing to buy. If you're saying your market value is $30 million a year, there's somebody out there who's going to say, we'll trade. We've seen 4 first-round picks fly for random stuff, it seems like. And I think Christian is one of those guys who I think could be a success story for Denver as a way of saying like, okay, Christian came in and he did the work and we recognized how talented he was and we moved on from KCP for him to get a starting role because he deserved that and was worthy of that opportunity. And maybe we can't pay him, but we can get him to an opportunity to where I don't know, maybe he's on some other team and it hurts, like we wish he was here, but also he's doing good things for himself and his career, and that's like a good lesson for, you know, for the next guy, for whoever it might be, to say that like, hey, you know, you buy in and it will actually work out for you, as opposed to like if you buy in, we'll suppress your career in like a way that I think a big like Jeremy Grant. I think a lot of the reason Jeremy Grant left is that like he didn't see a path for himself being, you want to say he's overrated on Detroit, maybe that's true, but he did get a max, you know. And I think for a lot of guys the max is worth more than, I don't know, whatever the alternative
on a championship team like that. Yeah,
well, you're also not guaranteed the championship.
It's true.
You know, so it's a role for like a team that might win a championship.
I mean, good point about Christian. I mean, part of the frustration again is like, I mean, we haven't been able to get, we got Bruce on a great deal. But we haven't, and we got Russ on a great deal, although I think his market's a little different. And he was great. But it's like you kind of have to reward the guys, but then we're not kind of getting we're not getting the efficiency value on the other end. So, I mean, I think your point about Christian is fantastic. I mean, I think 100% I wouldn't view him as untouchable. And I think it is, compare him to, like, I heard the Jalen Suggs contract mentioned, that's a top 5 pick for a team that's maybe will be in title contention. This year was not in title contention when they signed that deal. Like, it's a different environment where you probably do need to, it's not just like, okay, here's an extension. Perfect. Maybe do need to play a little more hardball with that one. But I mean, again, as far as like true tradable assets that the Nuggets have on their roster, Christian Brown might be,
I think he's
the best
number one. I'm going to say number 2.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, but the best one. Yeah. Maybe not the best one.
I would say Jamal is tradable now. I think Mike's way more tradable next offseason because of the expiring situation. Jamal, I don't think it really matters because he's just on the deal he's on now.
Yeah.
And he is the most valuable player of the people I'm about to talk about. But I think Christian is right there with, like, assumed to be on he's extension eligible. So if you wanted to move him now.
It was part of my Galaxy brain takes last year where it's like you have to pay KCP. Your extension for CB is going to be way less because he's not starting. And then you trade KCP now. Of course, he ended up pretty much having a first attached to his contract. But, I think he would have been better in Denver. But
you get something back for Christian. I can't. I mean, I feel like I don't know what you can get for Christian, to be fair, but I think you can get something. And maybe it does present, like, maybe you do get a few more like Peyton Watson minutes at the 2, and all of a sudden, look, he's got 17 minutes a game, and you can it's that kind of like iterative. I think a lot of what the Spurs did was a lot like this. Is that, like, there was always a next man up to kind of fill. Yeah, you're not replacing Manu, you're not replacing Tony Parker, you're not replacing Jokic, but you are kind of understanding that we can develop and replace and get the. I think the Sharks' teeth that the Cronkies were talking about, I think that can work for, like, role players. I guess that's all I'm saying.
Yeah, I think, the interesting point about the player, the, like, more dynamic bench players is, I think Tim Connolly loved hoopers, like, he loved skilled players. And I think we did kind of swing the other way maybe a little too hard, where it's like realistically, Najee, Brown, Watson, Strawther. I really like Strawther's game, but it's like they're kind of more plug into the starting unit players more so than bench players. And I do think, like, like Will Barton would have been fantastic on this past year's squad. It's kind of like exactly the type of player the Nuggets need, because I do think creation is a huge question mark for the team when we talk about all these different needs. Like, like the guy that they bring, if Russ is gone, who, again, I think Russ last season was, like, fantastic. But if they're going to replace Russ, it does kind of need to be with some creation, hopefully. But as you said, the fit there can be difficult sometimes. But because, I mean, the creation can be limited with Porter and Brown for sure. So,
what do we think about Julian Strawther's outlook on next year? Like, are we overall positive on what he can be next season? Do we think his minutes are going to go down? Like, what are the general thoughts about Julian Strawther at the moment?
I think he's a better shooter than he's shown. He does seem to be kind of a streaky shooter. He's like a good shooter where the percentages haven't caught up in the same way that, like, Mike's a good shooter but can feel streaky. Strawther seems to be really streaky to me. Seeing his flashes, ball handling and attacking the rim is something that, like, again, we just kind of lack that. We lack guys that can beat somebody off the bounce, and he's really good finisher with his length. So offensively, I really, really do like his game. I kind of view him in the same way that I view Watson, where I see both of them in their roles on the Nuggets. Do I see them being solid enough in the playoffs in that role next spring? Probably not. That's kind of where I'm at with Strother, where I love his game, but is he your plug and play backup shooting guard? That's kind of where I see no. But I feel like one of those two will be that immediate backup, and one of those two will maybe be further down the depth chart, and we'll kind of see.
I think he's got the juice.
Yeah, I love his game.
You need some juice from somebody.
Yeah.
And somebody's
Lord
got to have the
knows.
juice. And I'm really I think one of the things that I think Denver has done really well is find guys who have the right work ethic, and I think Julian kind of fits that bill. So I'm optimistic that he's going to, do all the things that he needs to do, or should be doing, I should say, to be the best version of himself. And I'm really encouraged by the playoffs that he had. Honestly, as much as and for Peyton too, Loki, and obviously some of the metrics for Peyton I think were really bad, but I think the younger guys, I think they showed. You still want to bring in some vets, right? We've got those big roster spots. But I'm open. I'm still I'm confident. I mean, I think Peyton and Julian stepping into obviously not starting roles, but something more meaningful. I feel somewhat good about that. Of just let's see, with another 2,000 minutes, can you be a better player come playoff time? I feel good about that. It's hard for me to predict. I think the bigger question marks are I think it's Zeke and Hunter as a couple of guys who have the right attitude, but I think have certain limitations that I'm not sure. Okay, well, I don't put them exactly the same. Zeke, I think he's good in a narrow context, so it's really, you got to be really, really thoughtful about who you play him with. He's proven. I don't want to say he can't play center, because if the other team isn't playing a center, I think it's not as big of a deal if the other team's going real small. But he's shown he can move his feet. I think if he just keeps shooting, he'll make enough threes. I'm not saying he'll be a 40% guy, but 36, 37% I think is fine for what he is. Hunter is a guy who I think they brought in to be you're a shooter. You're a scrappy white guy. Go do those things, and for him it's mostly a weight room thing, actually. I think Zeke's done that kind of work where I think physically he seems ready to compete, but Hunter, whereas Hunter, I think he has the mental, he knows how to play, knows how to move, and knows how to be productive. It's just, does he have the weight room experience where he's not getting knocked on the floor all the time, and can kind of hold up physically in a way that makes more sense.
My thing with Hunter is just his release is too slow. I mean, if you're gonna be a shooting specialist, his release is just too slow. He cannot play in the NBA unless that thing is coming out a little faster.
I just need him to make them.
That too.
I just need him to make the speed. He's not nobody's locked in on Hunter Tyson. Oh, we need to smother Hunter Tyson.
Yeah.
He's gonna have space. He's gonna be one of those guys that gets ignored. I'm okay with. He could be better, right? I do think that's a good point. If he was going to be a starter or even top 8 in the rotation, but you just need if you just need some guy to be hey, I can shoot.
He can be some guy.
Yeah, he can be some guy who generic 2K player who has like an 80 overall 3-point rating for some reason.
Just good enough.
Yeah. And just be a good influence. But
Zeke. I mean, Zeke is tricky because you kind of hit the nail on the head. Like, I mean, he's just kind of got a very kind of narrow space on the floor, like role in a lineup where he's effective.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that's what's tough with him. And I mean, that's kind of why I'm like, wait, Holmes is a power forward too. Like, I kind of assumed he was a center, and then it's like,
he's 6'8",
kind of a 4, and I'm like, okay, so we drafted another like not wing 4. All right.
Yeah. So Zeke feels like I would love him to be in like an Aaron Gordon understudy role. Yeah. Obviously, he's not going to be the offensive like connective piece that Aaron Gordon is, but it just from the perspective of just like you play defense, you contribute on the boards, you stay out of the way, you flash between the short corner and the 3-point line in the corner, and just like try to hit your shots. You're not going to have a lot of pressure on you. People aren't going to smother you off the 3-point line. You just got to like focus and hit those shots. I think that's a fine path for him. And if you can, and all this is to say, I wanted to touch on all these things is to say that like if the Nuggets can get 3 or 4 of the guys that we're talking about to be on the upper end of their expectations, of their reasonable expectations, not like, oh, he's going to be Peyton Watson's going to be an all-star. Like, okay, we'll see. But if you can do that, I think I feel really good, not just about the team, but also about what trade flexibility that we have at the deadline coming into this next season. And speaking of that, so do we trust the front office now?
No. Not earned yet. I mean, I will say I really, really like Adelman. I think they did the right thing there. Front office definitely to be determined, and I mean, I fully expect the starters to be the same. So, yeah, I mean, to me, the question is what's happening in free agency for the Nuggets.
Yeah, they just need to shock the world this offseason. Be like, oh, this is not a player that was on the Nuggets radar at all by anybody, and they just managed to snag him. Like, when we got Bruce Brown the championship year, it's like, what the hell? Like, on a mid-level exception, no less, you guys managed to do that? And you can pull off that caliber of move again. However, I'm not a GM. I don't know how the F all this is going to work, but if they can make that sort of move, my trust goes up, like, immediately, immensely, too.
I mean, Calvin Booth had an all-time great offseason, his first offseason. Maybe I'm selling them a little short.
KCP and Bruce Brown for that little money. It was what, $20 million combined?
Yeah,
for 1 year. I was like, damn, this man is working.
So I think it's a we'll see. I would say, I guess, no to the trusting them, but not like because I don't think they're gonna do well, just because I haven't seen anything yet.
Yeah, that's where I'm at too.
I feel like they deserve like my benefit of the doubt, I guess if you want to call it that. In terms of, I understand like the process. In terms of like that's been questionable. Like, I wish it hadn't taken this long, or I wish it hadn't. I don't know. This whole thing's been kind of messy.
Can I ask a question of you guys?
Sure.
What's up?
Let's just call it Bruce Brown, because that's what everyone's saying. Although, like, honestly, I'm kind of like, would be maybe excited to do something different. But say the Nuggets bring in Bruce Brown and Luke Cornett. Luke Cornett Bruce would probably have to be a minimum in that case. So I might be overshooting. But say they bring in a guard and Luke Cornett. How do you feel? And no Russell Westbrook.
There's one more roster spot. So I'm kind of.
Is that a two-way spot?
Call it a wing. Call it like
it's a Vlatko's spot. You got DJ who's not here, Vlatko who's not here, and Russ who would be gone.
Yeah, I mean, call it a wing, which I don't think there's many good wings on the free agency market. I want to say like Taurean Prince, who probably will get like an MLE type of deal.
Is Luke Kennard? I don't know.
Luke Kennard is a free agent. Yeah. There's some good guard options, honestly. Like, I kind of expect them to get a guard on the TPMLE, but
what? Ben Simmons. How do we feel about that potentially?
Russ winning a title with Jokic was going to be mountaintop, but Jokic winning a title with Ben Simmons would be true Pikes Peak, way up there.
I feel pretty good about it.
He fills a couple of gaps. Another playmaker, another athletic option, and some more height. Still, we're not losing out on that. Mm-hmm. But yeah, we always come back to the spacing thing. It's just like, especially with Ben Simmons, we're taking a huge handicap on that, and we'd have to be real careful about the other moves surrounding him as well, which is like that.
I almost feel like he would be like a backup 5, for like small ball lineups option. And so like
Aaron Holmes playing together, him and Zeke Naji playing together, I wouldn't like that. We were talking about building specifically with Zeke Naji and how like you have to be really, really like purposeful with who you play him with. I think him and Ben Simmons would be a really good pairing as a duo on the second unit. I think because they would fill each other's weaknesses. Zeke Naji wouldn't have to play in the center. He wouldn't have to play in the paint. He'd be able to switch off on the perimeter every now and then. If they end up in a pick and roll together, defending a pick and roll together, they can both switch easily. We wouldn't be losing that much ground out there. We still have that length out on the perimeter. We're still able to make plays, cause disruptions and stuff. I think that could be a really good pairing in theory.
Yeah. Where you don't. I really liked the like Russ and just a bunch of long guys lineups. Like those I really enjoyed those. They were able to like be physical, run, all those sorts of things. So I really enjoyed that. I guess as we start to, I want to say we've covered most of it. I mean, so I guess Summer League is coming up around the corner. Juice, I kind of want to start with you. As we wrap up, what are some of your hopes, dreams, expectations for Summer League, and who might play and who might not play, and how they do that?
So who's confirmed on our Summer League as of now? Spencer Jones, right? He's coming back.
Deron Holmes, I'm quite sure is going to play.
Yeah, Deron, I think is playing.
So Tamar Bates, who they just signed to a 2-way, is going to be playing the 6'4" guard. And they signed a couple of guys, Curtis Jones and Renee Smith, who are both shooters, basically. And outside of that, I think I doubt we see a Peyton. I doubt we see a Christian. I
believe a lot of Peyton may have been asked last summer and did not play. So I don't expect Peyton to be out there.
I don't like that.
And
it's not useful basketball.
Yeah.
Let me be honest. Like, if you already are in the league, like, what are you getting out of Summer League?
Yeah. No, 100%. I think for me, Deron Holmes, who looked fantastic, if I remember correctly. That was the other crazy thing. I think he definitely hit 1 3. He might have hit 2 3s in his first stint.
Didn't he have like 11 and 7?
Yeah, like
11-7 before he
man, he was balling out. I mean, so excited to see him. And like, I don't have much, I don't watch college hoops, so I don't have much of a feel for his game at all. So I'll be excited to watch him, and kind of just try to get a feel for where he fits into the rotation for the Nuggets. And so that's really what I'm going to be tuned in on. I did watch some Tamar Bates, and I love a lefty, so that's fun. And he seemed like he had pretty good size as well. That's kind of what struck me about Trey Alexander, who I liked his bucket getting, but he did look small, and maybe that was like he was just more slender. So tomorrow looks a little bigger from my first review. Of course, that's just me looking at YouTube videos. So if you fact check that, who knows? But I mean, I think the main draw will be Deron Holmes, who I'm excited. I mean, I know a lot of people loved him as a prospect. I think Calvin Booth is a really, really good scout, and he obviously traded up to get him. So it's going to be really fun to watch him. And, I mean, I think if he can play some 5 for the Nuggets, that's good for him. What I've heard is that might not be exactly where he's at. So, but he does seem more skilled than Najee. And I think obviously that's exciting. So I'm pumped to watch him.
Yeah, he's a guy you can kind of like play through a little bit more than Zeke.
I mean, he looks like a scorer, So
talk about dynamic players. He's one of them. Multiple skill sets. Like he's a mobile 4. He plays defense at the rim. He can get his hands up on the perimeter. He's 3, like we were saying. He stretches the floor offensively. He finishes plays at the rim. It's like that he is what our bench should look like, 6 through 10. But he's far and away the guy that I'm going to be paying the most attention to in all of Summer League, not even just the Nuggets.
Yeah, and I think he's set up for success as well. Like they really seem like they've brought in. I don't really care that much about some of the other guys insofar as like, are they going to be? Do they have a future with Denver? But I think they've done a good job of setting their homes up for success because the dynamic around bigs can be tough. Like obviously, even when Jokic played Summer League, it wasn't that great. When a lot of guys play Summer League, it's like most people are just trying to chuck. But I think you can really play through Holmes in a way that is going to showcase his skill set. He's had a year of just like off. I don't want to say it's good to get injured your first year, but we've seen a number of times guys miss their first year, come in as a rookie, and damn near win Rookie of the Year because I think in a lot of ways they have an advantage of maturity and familiarity with the league and with the the mechanisms of NBA basketball. So time in the weight room. So I'm optimistic about that. But yeah, as we wrap up, is there anything else you guys wanted to plug and or shout out, talk about, anything like that?
I think I'm good. Just check out the channel. Got some more stuff I'm working on, and should be fun stuff.
Sure. And where can they find you?
The Drop Step Network on YouTube, and then on Twitter. What is my Twitter @ name? It is, I believe it's Drop Step, but instead of an E, it's a 3.
Nice. Yes, that is correct. Just confirmed. And then I'm at Rayvon Hackshaw. Deuce.
Yeah, I mean, so fun to chop it up. I think it's, might not have too much activity this offseason, but maybe we do. And, I mean, it's fun times to talk about the Nuggets. I think for a long time, it was a very united front in the fan base. So yeah, it was super fun to come on and chat. I'm at Chill Ducey on Twitter.
Nice. Cool. Well, for all of us here and for Peter, who couldn't be here, but I'm sure is very supportive, I am signing off. This is Rayvon Hackshaw. And leave Angel Reese alone.
Say it again, please.
Leave Angel Reese alone. Y'all can't make layups.
Leave that poor woman alone, man. She's a hooper.
The same people who talk about Angel Reese can't make a left-handed layup if their life depended on it. Y'all need to go home.
universe on the line, you are not making that contested layup. Promise.
I'm just saying. Okay. Anyway. Yeah, we'll see you next time. And yeah, thanks for coming on. Thanks for listening.